Obi-Wan Kenobi premieres on Disney
All
Plus
right.
as the trailer for the next Mission Impossible movie debuts, and both Top Gun Maverick and the Bob's Burgers movie hit theaters. I'm Darius Delsoin.
And I'm Joe Acierno. This is Cinema Unchained. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the one and only Cinema Unchained podcast. We have a phenomenal show for you all today. So much happened this weekend, this past week, that we're not even going to be able to get to it all. I know what you're thinking. Oh, Joe, Darius, Stranger Things 4 came out this past weekend. Are you guys going to be talking about that? Not today, but we will be talking about it at some point. Stay tuned till the end of the show, so that way you can find out exactly when we'll be giving our thoughts on the new season of Stranger Things. Now, before we talk about our first impressions for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications for more fun, honest, and engaging talks about film, TV, and other motion picture headlines, whether you're on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, before we give our review of the Bob's Burgers movie, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series premiered on Disney Plus this past Friday. 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan Kenobi lives a solitary life looking over Luke Skywalker on Tatooine until he's forced to come out of hiding. And what I will say so far is that this is a promising start. I'm really waiting for things to take off, but I'm confident that it will come. And you know, at least for me personally, Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite Star Wars character of all time. So seeing him so far has been enough. I feel like Ewan McGregor still is charismatic as a legendary Jedi, and I always loved his portrayal in the prequel series, the prequel trilogy, because as many flaws as the prequel trilogy had, even though the reputation of it seems to be building back up, especially with the sequel trilogy now, there's one thing that was always consistently solid, consistently reliable, was Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, whether it's just his performance or his characterization. And this show has continued that trend. And I like that we see certain sides of Obi-Wan Kenobi, like a sort of like worn down and regretful side to him, because he's still dealing with the effects of everything that happened in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's one of the things I did like about this, especially starting off the show, was really you get a sense of what happened before. You got the prequel trilogy, and you got to see, basically a nice sum up of what happened over the course of that trilogy. And so it was nice to see that at the start of the show. But overall, for me, I'm very mixed. I'm leaning more on the negative side. I wasn't too big on it. Again, Ewan McGregor as Kenobi is probably one of the best parts, but there are other aspects of the show that just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. And that's honestly in the first episode, and even more so in the second episode, because of certain retcons that they did that just don't make any sense in the grand scheme of the Star Wars lore. Again, Joe, you know me, other people know that I'm a big Star Wars fan. I'm really in depth with it. So for me, it's just, there are certain things that just didn't make sense when it came to other aspect of the Star Wars universe and lore that was established, that was shown off in other media, that it feels like they just completely ignored, disregarded, or they just didn't do a good enough homework and research as they should have before they did certain actions, especially in the second episode. Some of the acting and some of the dialogue felt very stilted. I wasn't a fan of one of the characters, Riva. She feels very forced as a character, and even there's certain information that she has, or at least how they've been going about some of the information that she has shared, she shouldn't have known in the first place. Such considering her placement in the Inquisitor line. And there's just certain dynamics, even with the Inquisitors, where, like, if you did something, you shouldn't be alive. So, again, there's a lot of questionable things for me it's not clicking for me. And it's unfortunate. I love Kenobi. I love Star Wars. I love Kenobi. He's such a good character. And to see that even in the second episode, I'm still a bit, if not leaning towards more of the negative because of certain things they did, I'm just like, it's not doing it for me, unfortunately. I do like it more as far as the first two episodes. As far as first impressions, this feels like Book of Boba Fett again for me, and I'm very nervous about that because of the ending of Book of Boba Fett. But again, it's the first 2 episodes. But even with the first 2 episodes, I expected a much better presence and a better impact. As far as getting back into this era of Star Wars, and it's just not doing it for me, unfortunately.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I do feel like, and I remember this with the Book of Boba Fett too, I feel like with the Star Wars series in general, it takes a little bit for them to, like I said, really take off and really get things going. Like right now, I feel like, you're just like building things up, like you're setting things up right now. The setup is taking a little longer than I guess we would have anticipated, but we'll just have to wait and see exactly where this goes. I do feel like, the third sister, what seems like is going to be like one of the main antagonists. I will say she's an imposing force so far. I'm interested by her. I want to see where they go.
It's funny you find that. Like, for me, I am not interested by her at all. I do not like her. I don't like her character. Really? I don't like her attitude. Again, there are things that if you do certain things, as far as when you're in and you're an inquisitor and you are going over someone's head, let's just say you should not be alive. Vader has zero tolerance for that. So again, that's why I'm a bit frustrated with her as a character. It's like, I don't like her. I'm only interested in her to see why she's so focused on Kenobi. That's the only reason.
As am I.
That's the only reason. But other than that, all the other aspects of... And the thing is, again, there's certain information she knows, and I think they're trying to allude that she knows more about Leia and Luke than she does. That has me question, again, how would she even know that? Or why would she tell Kenobi that, like, who Vader is, nobody should know except Darth Sidious. That's it. So that's why I'm just, like, it's almost like on a need-to-know basis, but even nobody else should know. Again, that's why I'm just questioning certain information, unless, again, I want to give the benefit of the doubt, maybe she used the Force to manipulate his mind and to kind of trick him, and maybe that could be established later on that that's what she did. But again, certain things are just not doing it for me. Even when we see Leia, certain aspects of the second episode felt like the episode where they wanted to hit the ground running. At least, maybe for other people it did, but for me it just didn't, because of just certain things. Even as a kid, and you're running in a forest, but again, that's my own issue. I have a whole issue with that too. And even
I think I know what action scene you're talking about. Like that felt a little odd. It felt a little unbelievable, and I feel like the action really chasing scenes that I've seen in general feel a little lackluster at this point. But what I will say is that at least one of the things that this show definitely has going for it so far is the visuals. The visual effects do look really, really good. To me, they definitely look like a film, which anytime I see that on a TV series, I'm always impressed.
Yep, absolutely. And that's one of the things I have to give to Disney and the Disney Plus shows, or at least on the Marvel Studios and Star Wars side of things, is that it very much looks and feels more filmic compared to other shows on other streaming platforms. And I like that. I like that a lot. And I like the technology. It looks like they're using stagecraft again. So, again, there's just certain behind the scenes. And the unfortunate thing with Kenobi is that I'm just a bit iffy, and I have to keep reminding myself, this also went through pre-production hell. They had to keep rewriting scripts, apparently, and I'm wondering what changed, and I'm wondering what was before and what they changed into the script and what we're seeing now. So, but yeah, like I said, for me, I'm not fully into it. I'm hoping the third episode, which is really the mid-season finale, if you think about it, it's only a 6-part series, which is why I do question why they would drop the first 2 episodes. But again, it is what it is. So, I mean, overall, I hope the third episode hooks me in. If not, I'm going to be very worried about this show.
Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, I think it'll take a little bit of time for it to really hit the ground running, but we'll see what happens. So for any of you that have gotten a chance to take a look at the Obi-Wan Kenobi premiere, what are your thoughts on the series so far? Leave them wherever it is that you can, whether it's in the comment section on any social media page, on YouTube, Choose your pick. Choose your poison. All right, now, before we talk about the trailer for Mission Impossible 7, the Bob's Burgers movie premiered in theaters this past weekend. As Bob and Linda struggle to handle the economic woes of Bob's Burgers, the Belcher kids try to solve a mystery that could possibly save the family restaurant. Now, as someone who, within like the last couple months, like really got into the show, I'm on season 9 already. You know, I've really like developed such an affinity for the show. I never felt like I was just watching an extended episode. And when it comes to a lot of like movies that are based on TV shows, especially like long running, like, you know, animated sitcoms, there's definitely that risk that it falls into that sort of territory. But I never felt like that with this film at all. It definitely kept the spirit of the show. It was very funny. The dialogue, of course, was witty, and it was witty in a way that felt like, you know, it was like a Bob's Burgers, you know, entity in a way, a Bob's Burgers project of some kind. The callbacks to the show were very well done. But at the same time, it felt deeper and even more cinematic than a typical Bob's Burgers episode, which I really wasn't expecting that nearly as much with something like this.
Yeah, the Bob's, like, I know you're big into Bob's Burger. I haven't really watched a ton of Bob's Burger, but from what I have watched, it definitely seems very witty, very funny, and I definitely got a sense of that in the movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a fun time. I had a good time. It's that movie where it's like, if you're a Bob's Burger fan, honestly, I think you're gonna enjoy it. It's like they don't stray away too much from what Bob's Burger is. They keep it in line. The comedy is there. The weirdness is there. And it's like it's hard to say it was horrible or anything like that or bad. And I've heard occasions when I left the theater that some people weren't big on it, and I was shocked. Didn't really ask why, because I kind of just kept going my way. But for me, it's dumb fun. Again, had a good time and had heart to it. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, you know, and I think much of that heart comes from the fact that they further development of the characters in the film, like dive deeper into the insecurities of all of them, like, you know, throughout the course of the story, especially the kids. And I also liked too that I felt like certain characters felt enhanced after finishing the film, because again, they dive deeper into really all of them. There are certain characters I definitely like more. You know, Mr. Fish Odor, the landlord. I think he was funny before. I like him even more now. But like character wise, like there really wasn't a sour note in this movie other than the villain. And I'm like, it's a comedy villain, so like I'm kind of like, you know, let it slide. But I still felt like he was, I don't know, he was kind of meh. Like, you know, the real reason to watch this show or this film is really because of like all the other characters. Like, I thought the characters that they included in this film were incorporated and done well. I thought they were done very well. But the villain, like I said, even though he's a comedy villain, I just didn't really feel like he was entertaining. I'm not asking for like the superimposing force, but I kind of just feel like, you know, he's kind of there. Yeah. He's like, anytime like he was on screen, I'm like, all right, I kind of want to get back to these other characters too. And again, maybe that's a little bit of an unfair comparison because again, like, you know, these other characters have had, I believe, 10 or 11 seasons now to develop. So, of course, as someone who's been watching the show, there's more of an attachment to them. But I feel like even then, like this new character, Grover Fishoder, who's the landlord, or excuse me, the cousin of the Belcher's landlord, he's kind of just He's, you know, he's not really memorable. Like, I'm going to forget about him within like a week or so.
Yeah, I mean, like, speaking of the villain, I do agree he is a stupid comedy villain. But for me, I thoroughly enjoy that, mainly because there are just certain instances where it's just like, why keep doing it? Especially one scene where he kept going up and down the steps, and I just had to laugh. So I was just like, this is pretty funny. And then another one was how he walked that just cracked me up. So, I mean, yeah, he was a stupid, silly villain. But again, honestly, my expectations were pretty low in this movie. So that's why it's like, yeah, I'll see, you know, dumb fun, have a good time sort of thing. And I got exactly that. So, like I said, I'm not expecting so much.
My expectations for this movie, again, as a fan of the show, were actually somewhat high. And this movie just about met, if not exceeded them a little bit, because I knew that it was by and large like the same people that had been working on the show, like they were coming back to do this film. So I'm like, okay, like, you know, these are the people that know these characters in the past. They're going to know how to really expand them for the big screen. I do feel like they did that very well. One of the things that I feel like separates this movie from like a typical Bob's Burgers episode 2 is that like certain things, again, just felt deeper. Like I mentioned before, like the insecurities of the characters and just like diving to more territory with them, but also the fact that it's a murder mystery too. It ends up being that. I'm like, okay. And like certain things that they depict and how they go about telling certain things, I'm like, all right, like it's not really like, like intense. Like it's definitely not intense or anything like that. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like just a little bit heavier than a typical Bob's Burgers episode. I like that. It feels different. And that's one of those reasons why I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel like just an extended episode of the show.
Yeah, definitely had a lot of fun with this. Kind of wish it was on a streaming service, to be honest. That's just me personally. But still enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do feel like if you're a fan of the show, then you will more than likely enjoy it. I went with everybody. I went with four other people, and we're all fans of the show, and the reactions all around like seem to be pretty positive. So I do think this is definitely, of course, like more targeted for people that are fans of the show. But for everybody out there, what are your thoughts on the Bob's Burgers movie? Does it actually justify its existence? I personally believe that it does. Or did it feel like an extended episode? Or does it feel like an actual movie itself? Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can. All right, now before we get into everything Tom Cruise related, don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications for more fun, honest, and engaging talks about film, TV, and other motion picture headlines, whether you're on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, before we end off the show with our review of Top Gun Maverick, the trailer for the next Mission Impossible film was released online this past week. And I think the only thing that we really know so far is that Ethan Hunt, a.k.a. Tom Cruise, is, he has to save the world again. And that's I think that's really all we know so far. And what I will say, with all the controversy that was surrounding this film's production, with how many times it got shut down because of COVID, I just hope that it's worth it. I really do. Yeah,
definitely. I hope it's worth it. I know it had a lot of issues in production during COVID. From the trailer itself, honestly, personally, didn't feel a lot. I was just like, all right, another Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie. Let's see if it's good. Hope it's good. And like that's really the impression I just got. And it felt more like a sizzle reel than a trailer per se, or it felt incomplete, at least for me, because I don't know, maybe if that's the style they were going for, that's the intention. But for me, it felt more like a incomplete sizzle reel, not sizzle reel, but more like an incomplete trailer. And if it is it is a trailer, but it lacked a certain amount of weight to it for a Mission Impossible movie. And that's kind of why I'm a bit like,
fair.
It's like this trailer. I do think this is my last point, but like this trailer kind of reminded me of just how I felt with Fast and Furious now. Just that's it.
Yeah, I do think that with this trailer, I don't know if they label it a teaser trailer, but it definitely at least feels like one. And I know that since this film isn't set to go into theaters until July of next year, of 2023, then it doesn't make sense for them to reveal more of their cards at this point in the game. Like, I do feel like later down the road, we'll be able to just get a better impression of this film, like when they release like a full trailer, you know what I mean? And not just a trailer that's basically like a bunch of action scenes, really. And what I will say, like, so far the action looks thrilling, but again, of course, like you said, this feels like a sizzle reel, which I think is a perfect way to describe it. Tom Cruise running all over the place yet again. One question mark that I do have with this. All right, so the film is called Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Why does there have to be a Part 1 and 2?
Yeah, I don't get that myself personally. The second I saw Part 1, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why is this a Part 1? Like, I'm questioning if there's a Part 1 mainly because of how bad the production was when it came to COVID. That's what I'm really curious about. Like, it doesn't feel. I don't know. It feels like maybe some stuff. COVID had a big hit in the filmmaking industry, so I'm wondering if a good chunk of that was hit that maybe they're still, I don't even know, like, are they still filming? I don't think, no, they're not still filming. Or at least maybe the post-production process, they're just not caught up just yet. Because I know, yeah.
They're according to IMDb, their part 1 is in post-production and part 2 they're filming.
But again, it feels odd for it to be a part 1 because I don't recall Mission Impossible ever getting a part 1, part 2. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I feel like you only do like parts 1 and 2 if it's like based on a book, which even then, like, I'm not always crazy when they do that too. I feel like if my memory's serving me correctly, I feel like the Harry Potter films were the first ones to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they're doing a part 1 and 2 for this, like, is this going to be the last Mission Impossible story?
Exactly. Like how I picture part 1, part 2 is more like this is the finale in a sense of the franchise.
Yep.
And if it is, then okay, hope you end it off with a bang sort of thing. But in general, it felt odd to me because I was just like, this doesn't feel like a Dune situation where it's understandable for it to be a part 1, part 2 sort of thing. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see with this one. Like, it seemed kind of interesting, but it didn't reveal too much yet. It definitely gave you that feel. It gave a sneak preview as far as, like, you know, really how big the action is going to be. You get like a little you get a little snippet as far as, like, you know, what the story is going to be about or like be concerned with. Like, I think there's a line there that said something along the lines of like, oh, we have a chance to like control the truth or something like that, which is eerily familiar considering today's media, political, and societal climate. But that's the most I will say about that. So I'm looking to see like what their interpretation of that is. Cast looks interesting. Of course, you got Tom Cruise. I mean, you can't have a Mission Impossible film without Tom Cruise. You have, of course, Simon Pegg, who I love. Ving Rhames. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. But you also have Amy Atwell, a.k.a. Captain Carter. I want to see how she does with this one. Vanessa Kirby of... the fuck was that name? The name of that movie that we reviewed on like the second episode of the show. Oh, Pieces of a Woman. And I'm like, because I remember looking at her in the trailer. I'm like, she looks very familiar for some reason. And then I looked her up on IMDb. I'm like, oh shoot, she was in that movie that we saw, right? So yeah, I mean, I do think it seems to have like fairly competent people like involved with the film. It's directed and written by Christopher McQuarrie, who did Mission Impossible 6. He wrote The Usual Suspects. Both of which are solid, and watching this film, it felt like something that he would do.
Yeah. So again, it's gonna be interesting. Hope it's good. To me, this felt like because Top Gun Maverick was coming out, they had to put something together for Top Gun. That's just how it felt, unfortunately.
Yep. I'm in the same exact.
And I'm just like,
you're
if it's coming out next year, you should have waited. Should have just waited later in the year or next year. So yeah, to me, just from the trailer, I felt nothing, uninterested. But I hope when they have an official trailer and the meat is there, I can get more excited. So
yeah, I think it will be, again, considering the people that are involved. But we'll just have to wait and see, because again, this is Mission Impossible 7 part 1.
It's only 7.
So, you know, it's
Fast
very possible
and Furious is on 10.
Yeah, and how's that going for them? So, for any of you that have gotten a chance to take a look at this trailer, you probably watched it if you went to see Top Gun Maverick this past weekend. What are your thoughts? And of course, those thoughts, you know what to do. You know to leave them in whatever comment section that you can possibly find in relation to the show. And now, to cap off today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the new film Top Gun Maverick. Captain Pete Mitchell, aka Maverick, is recruited to prepare a new generation of Navy fighter pilots for a dangerous aerial combat mission. The film stars Tom Cruise, Jennifer Connelly, Miles Teller, John Hamm, and more. And now I watched the original film for the first time the night before seeing this one. And of course, it was a fun, cheesy movie, extremely 80s, a little bit overrated, a little bit over the top, but it's fine for what it is. This film blows the original film away. Oh my God. This movie was just spectacular. It was absolutely spectacular. I didn't think I'd enjoy this film as much as I did. I thoroughly
enjoyed, if not loved, this movie. It was thrilling. It was intense. It was heartfelt and emotionally there. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Tom Cruise did a wonderful job everyone surrounding him, supporting cast, honestly, they also did a great job. Really awesome, funny moments as well. Miles Teller, absolutely great. Love him. I think he's a solid actor, and I like seeing him in this movie with Tom Cruise. I think they had really solid chemistry together. You get the you know something is up and messed up, and you feel it and you see it. And again, the sound in this movie was amazing. I wish I saw this in Dolby Cinema or IMAX instead of regular theaters, honestly.
Same here.
This movie was just
same here.
Visually spectacular, acting across, like it was a really solid and engaging film. And when I say engaging not just in the visual aspect and acting, but also the story and paying homage and actually having respect to the original Top Gun as well. And
yep, the callbacks to the original film were really great. I love how this film, like, again, managed to balance the callbacks to the original while finding ways to differentiate itself. If you're a die-hard fan of the original film, you will love this. And the callbacks to the original film, like, feel essential to the story and characters' journeys too, which I really appreciated, because a lot of times they throw that stuff in there just for nostalgia bait, just to have people, like, walk away with some kind of warm and fuzzy feeling, but at the same time, it doesn't really serve a purpose to the story. This movie didn't do that. This movie did it exactly the way that you should do that. Now, Darius, have you ever seen the original Top Gun?
Yes, I've seen the original Top Gun.
Okay, all right. So I was the only one that only watched it for the first time very recently, I guess. But how do you feel this film comparison, or how do you feel this film does in comparison to the?
I mean, I kind of lost my train of thought, but I just like I said, I really liked it. I think it paid a good amount of respect to the original. I honestly, personally, I like it more than the original, the first one. But I just think it did a really good job of not just being a solid sequel, but also tying the knot to potentially this franchise too. And I think they just did it in a really beautiful, eloquent way that I'm just like, I'm happy I went to see this into a theater. And just really, again, this movie was just engaging across the entire board, especially in the sound department. I like how they were in fighter jets. They actually filmed these jets, which is incredible. Yep. I like that Tom Cruise was really like, no, I don't want to green screen this. Let's do it for real. I like that a lot. I think they did a really good job, honestly. And I thoroughly enjoyed this movie across. Like, it's hard for me to complain about anything in this film because it was so engaging and so thrilling and just fun and heartfelt in a lot of the ways that it should be impactful, especially in those tender moments. And again, thoroughly I actually teared up I think a few times. So I was like, because it was just so good. It was just really, really good.
This movie made me appreciate the original more, because like there's just it's weird, like there are certain character journeys now that feel complete in comparison to like things that happened in the original. And one of the things that I really did appreciate about this film, just like from an execution point of view, from a story point of view, it's definitely more polished than the original, but it's also it's bolder too. And again, it takes on certain challenges. It finds ways to really just enhance itself enhance the overall Top Gun story, which again, like that's the reason why you should make a sequel, to enhance the overarching story of whatever franchise, you're putting out there. I felt like the drama and conflict in this one was more believable. It was, like, to use your words, engaging without being over top, again, in comparison to the original. The film moves very fast. It's very energetic. The action sequences, my God, especially the final action sequence at the end. Or actually, no, this is one of the final action sequences at the end. Like, when they first start that final mission, oh my God, that scene is amazing. That entire sequence is just absolutely spectacular. The editing in this film, too, is, I think, one of the reasons why this film works so well, why it moves so quickly, and it's just so thrilling, too. So you have that, you have the sound design, all of which are just absolutely stunning. The aerial cinematography, just wow. Like, this film, like, could go down as a quintessential, if not the quintessential, summer blockbuster flick.
Yeah. I definitely highly recommend everyone to go see it. And if you have the funds, see it in IMAX or Dolby Cinema, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
I think that is the format to watch this movie in. It was just highly recommended. That's all I gotta say. Just go see it.
Yeah, exactly. Same from here. Again, this movie improves on the original in so many ways. It's firing on all cylinders. Exactly what I think a lot of people are looking for in a summer blockbuster flick, and then some. So definitely check this out, and check this out on the biggest screen and the biggest sound system that you possibly can. So for everybody that got a chance to watch Top Gun Maverick, what were your thoughts on it? How do you feel it compares to the original? Do you feel like this film really, made itself necessary after watching it? If you haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, are there any pauses or reserves that you have on going to see it? Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can. And just like that, that's all we have for you today. Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications for more fun, honest, and engaging talks about film, TV, and other motion picture headlines, whether you're on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, just a bit of an announcement. So we're not going to have a new episode for a couple of weeks. Both Darius and I have prior commitments going on the next couple of weekends, which is when we record these episodes for all of you. We will return on Monday, June 20th, with our review of Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 1, and Lightyear. We'll see you then.